Welcome to this podcast in a series developed by the Nebraska Juvenile Justice Association. NJJA is a 501c3 not-for-profit public benefit association. The mission of NJJA is to improve services to youth in the juvenile justice system by serving as a resource for collaboration, leadership development, and education for juvenile justice system professionals and interested stakeholders. Our efforts are greatly enhanced with the generous support of the Sherwood Foundation. Please visit our website at njja.org to see a list of upcoming podcasts, as well as the opportunity to revisit those podcasts previously recorded. We welcome your thoughts as to potential podcast topics and interest. Welcome to the Juvenile Justice in Nebraska podcast, produced by the Nebraska Juvenile Justice Association.
All right, here we go. Episode 19 of the NJJA podcast. Super excited for today's show. We have two men with us on today from Wahoo. We have Marc Kaminski and John Harris with the Wahoo Public Schools, right, guys?
Correct. Wahoo Middle School. Yep.
Marc, why don't you start real quick? Just kind of give everybody an overview of who you are and what you do.
My name's Marc Kaminski. Like what was introduced, I am the principal at Wahoo Middle School. This is my 7th year at Wahoo Middle School. I've been, I think, year 19 in education, and 18 of them I've been fortunate enough to be in the Wahoo Public School District.
Wow. And John, how about you, John?
So I am the current 7th through 12th grade school counselor at Wahoo Middle School, Wahoo High School. Like Marc, I've been in this job 7 years. This is my 7th year, I should say. And I believe I've kind of lost count of all the beads, but I think I'm in year 29 of public education. So been around the block a time or two.
How many in Wahoo? Is it just the 7 then, or have you been with Wahoo?
No, this is the 19th year in Wahoo.
Wow, good for you. I would be remiss if I didn't also notice or let everybody know that Tammy Sassaman is on with us. Tammy, how are you?
Good. Thanks for having me today.
Yeah, so we got kind of a special relationship because Tammy knows John, right? And Tammy, you know Marc as well?
I sure do. So I've worked with both of them in the past.
Good.
And have had great working relationships with the Wahoo Public School System.
Perfect. So we're in for a good podcast here. Kind of what we want to talk about with you guys is the peer mediation. Peer mediation is something that's not widely known. Maybe it's a relatively new concept, maybe it's not, but I don't know a lot of schools that are doing it right now. So I'm kind of interested in learning more about that. Looking forward to both John and Marc kind of explain to us how they're utilizing it and kind of what scenarios it's used. If somebody's kind of want to kick it off and just kind of let us know what exactly peer mediation is.
Go ahead, John.
I was going to say, Marc, I'm going to let you lead, but I'll go ahead and jump in. I guess I'll start. So this idea actually came about as Marc and I were looking at the culture of our middle school and trying to find ways to continue to help students develop their leadership, while at the same time, addressing some of those minor daily occurrences that the middle school kids live through that can end up in the principal's office. And so as we were talking about that, it was kind of a happenstance that one of our students came to me and said, I would like to look into a peer mediation program.
Oh, wow.
And so it was, the light bulb went on and I went to Marc and I said, hey, funny thing, looks like we have leader number 1, and now we just need to figure out what we want to do, how we want to do it. Who else can we partner with? Because while we're in the field of education, this is certainly a little different realm than teaching lessons and the what that we typically do. And so that's when we partnered with Amber at Youth Services here in Saunders County. And we developed this idea of implementing a peer mediation program into our middle school.
Wow. So what exactly is peer mediation then? What is the premise of it? Well,
the idea of peer mediation is to, there's a number of challenges within a school system, especially at a middle school. I think everybody understands that has taught or associated with middle schools, and not just in ours. But there's challenges. There's a lot of changes that are going on at the middle school level.
Sure.
Part of the big change is a social aspect, and it's been amplified probably more in the past years with social media being available. I know schools have challenges across the board with that, trying to monitor it, develop procedures for it that just make your learning environment positive, and obviously bring some success on the kids. So, there's challenges. And so when this idea was brought to me by John, I thought about it a little bit, and I was like, yes, this probably could work. Like John and I were talking, I think one of the biggest draws for this program was trying to develop leaders, because there's, with all the social things that are going on, especially in middle school, there's a lot of stuff that's always brought to our office, the counselor's office, whether it's my office. A lot of it's serious, some of it's not. We like to call it drama sometimes, but it takes time, and not that we don't want to deal with those things. The idea that we had was, what could this program help us develop some leaders that could maybe go out into the student body itself and maybe try to fix or solve some of these problems so it doesn't get to us. Now, the peer mediation program, we love. You're developing leaders. You're getting, we're putting procedures together where we can get, if a student has a problem, we can get this specific student mediator to be involved with the problem and talking with them and trying to resolve the problem itself, with a staff member being there, being present, helping kind of guide the conversation. So that's in a nutshell what it is. We worked on it this last year. We had some training on it. We put together a list of some kids that we thought would be, with the help of our staff, that would be really good peer mediators for our school. So we're excited about it. We're again, just the very early stages of it, just trying to figure things out, and we're going to try to go with it this year. So
that's excellent.
So can you give us an example of like a different scenario that or a certain specific scenario that you've encountered already in which you've used the peer mediation?
So as Marc said, the peer mediation training happened last spring. It took quite a while to get everything off the ground, so to speak. The idea happened, the conversations between Marc and I started early last school year. But we weren't officially able to draw our students, get our students together, get them trained. The folks from Miller Institute came in and trained our students in March. Okay. So we had some training in March, practice sessions. We did another practice session over the summer. Typical things that middle schoolers deal with that on a small scale are no big deal, but left unchecked, those things could turn into to bigger issues. It could be something along the lines of, a disagreement between two students that could be over where we're sitting at the lunch in the lunchroom, and it could be a deep-seated thing, but it initially starts out as this drama. I don't want to sit by you. I get up and move. Well, and then here comes 3 or 4 other people to my rescue because I've been offended. I obviously moved. It was my problem. And then you have 3 or 4 others who come to the rescue of the person that I walked away from. A mediator would pick up on that. A mediator would be someone who might first hear of the primary folks that were involved in that and find occasion to bring those 2 folks together, or even bring it to Marc or my attention and just say, hey, this is what I heard. This is what I saw. I would like to bring this one in for mediation. As Marc described, then what would happen is either himself or me, Marc or I, as well as a staff member that we currently have trained, any of us could sit in and simply be the the backdrop for this conversation between these two folks who have a disagreement, to try and mediate or figure out really what the root of this issue is before it blows up into something big enough that we end up with physical altercation, we end up with the rumor mill spinning or whatever. That's our hope. Our hope is that it helps empower leaders to have conversations with their classmates about issues that may happen in the lunchroom, but absolutely impact the classroom.
Yeah. Really interesting stuff. And I think it's absolutely phenomenal that you're partnering with Amber and her team over there. I think that's really neat to hear. One of the things that I had a question on is John, you mentioned somebody came in and trained you. Who was that again?
So Dr. Chris Irving from the Miller Institute.
The Miller Institute.
Out of Teaneck, New Jersey.
How did you by chance utilize them or choose them? Or are they the only ones that do this type of training?
Mark, do you want to address that, or I can?
That was set up through Amber and the program that we went through. So youth services helped us out with that, setting that up for us.
Excellent. Now, Wahoo's obviously not a real big town. It's not a town like Lincoln or Omaha. So a lot of these kids know each other really well, right? I mean, they see each other every single day. They see each other in school, out of school. My question, I guess, is how do you think the kids are going to do when you have one of their classmates trying to mediate a problem or a scenario, with someone who they see every single day? I'm sure they were trained in all that stuff, and I'm sure it's going to be a fantastic endeavor. I'm just curious what you guys' thoughts are.
Well, I think one of the challenges, I don't know if you call it challenges, sure, but one of the parts of this that John and I had talked about, us being in a small school, but again, I think if you can empower students, no matter how big the school district is, and these students that we have been going through the training with have done just a fantastic job, and they're very, very excited about it.
That's great.
I think it's more of if we can get it going, and we're gonna take some time. We got some things scheduled the first couple of weeks of school where we're going to introduce this program. I think it'll go. I think it'll spread. I think that's one of the parts that's pretty important for us as being a small school district, and not a very large student body. That we get it going, and these kids are excited about it, and we can really kind of get the information out and kind of get the process out and just get it going. I think that's always probably the important part when you're in a smaller district. So
I have to imagine that the kids. I'm sorry, John. Go ahead.
I was just going to jump in and say, these students aren't going to be the problem police. That's not their jobs. We're not giving them badges and sending them out and telling them to solve all the problems in our school system. Their eyes and their ears. This is an opportunity for two people to sit down together and work through their differences.
And also, a big part of it, too, is an important part that we tried relaying to the kids when we were going through this training is that not every problem is going to be solved. We might get into this peer mediation process, and we may not get anywhere. We might just go in circles fast, and we're just going to be done. And then there's times where maybe we're in this meeting and we're going through this process where then it becomes our jobs. It becomes then an administration job to solve the problem. So we try to get that message to those kids very, very early in this process so that they were comfortable with going through the training and what their roles would be. So.
And what an opportunity for the kids that are going through the mediation, but even more than that, the opportunity is given to the mediators from, as you guys mentioned, the leadership standpoint. I think that speaks volumes about what you guys are trying to do in Wahoo and how you're developing these kids as leaders. And I think that's just a really unique opportunity for them. And I'm interested to continue following it as the year starts here next week. It sounds like.
So I have a question in regards to the age-wise or the level of grade they're in. Did you pick your mediators based on a certain grade level?
What we did was we're a 6, 7, and 8 building, and so what John and I did was we worked with our staff members. We had them meet a couple of times to discuss, okay, here's what the program is. Who do you feel like would be good mediators for this program? Also kind of keeping in mind that, it doesn't have to be the most popular kid, the one that maybe stands out as the best leader in the class. It could be a wide variety, looking at the different demographics of the class. Let's add some kids that you feel like that maybe kids would follow from maybe different demographics, within the student body. So we tried looking at that. So we had them choose a handful of kids from the 6th and 7th grade, but we also then went down to the elementary school last spring and talked to those teachers as well. So we got the 5th grade, a handful of 5th grade students involved with the training as well in preparation for this school year. So we also added one staff member. And then I guess my goal is, I know John and I have talked about, we'd like to have at least one, possibly 2 staff members from each grade also be available as mediators within the process. So
That's great. That's great. I know we talked about Amber. Again, Amber Palin, she's the program director for the Saunders County Youth Services. And I think Amber does a phenomenal job of really trying to bring those resources into Saunders County and into the schools. I know a lot of the schools in Saunders County and surrounding counties, they don't have social workers. And so the thing is I think it's really good that these kids can turn to a different resource internally within the school to try to solve some of the difficulties or the problems or the obstacles that they're having.
So, John, Mark, was this a totally new concept for you guys as well?
So I told you I ran out of beads to count how many years I've been in public education, but it's always I think a goal for teachers, principals, counselors to grow leaders. It's great that we have kids walk out of here with 4.0 grade point averages. It's great that we have students that go to college and get paid to play football, or they join the military service or whatever when they leave here. But more than that, developing those soft skills, developing those leadership abilities to be able to send them out of here as better human beings, I think is equally or more so important sometimes than the curriculum that we also disseminate. So the peer mediation in and of itself, the title peer mediation, I would say that's relatively a new concept to Mark and I. But as far as developing leaders and facilitating conversations, that's been around for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's awesome too, because a lot of those younger kids look up to older kids. And when you have a 5th grader, a 6th grader, maybe going through a peer mediation process with an 8th grader, I think it's also really is a great way to role model of what this can look like for them when they get to that age. So it's almost kind of that peer role modeling as well as that mediation piece as well.
Well, that's one of the things that we've talked about as well is, getting started in the middle school could, have its benefits for, when they go into the next level in the high school as well. Mm-hmm. So yeah, we're pretty excited about it. The training again was fantastic in the spring. Our kids are really excited about it. So we're ready to roll.
Go ahead, Tammy.
Well, I just know for my role, I'm also a behavioral health, mental health therapist. And one thing that I also see too is the middle school is a very, very challenging time of life for these kids. Mm-hmm. Very challenging. They're trying to figure out not only how do they fit in, they're trying to figure out who they are. They're trying to figure out the whole new learning system as far as having multiple teachers versus one homeroom teacher. This is often the time too where kids are getting their first telephone, or sorry, I shouldn't say telephone, phone. Sorry, their first phone. So trying to maneuver the social world as well. And so I think it's a really prime time to be really targeting that age to provide some of that leadership and build up that confidence and that self-worth and self-esteem. I think it's great.
Right. And that's what we talked about as well. I call it Hurricane Middle School because that's kind of somewhat what it is, with all the mental, we talked about the mental, but the social and the physical changes that these kids go through from when they're sixth grader to an eighth grader. I mean, they are totally different kids when they step into the middle school in the fall in their sixth grade to when they leave in the spring, their eighth grade year going into high school. It's amazing. So.
Do you know, are there any other schools in the state of Nebraska that have gone through this type of training? Do you know? And if not, that's okay too. But
I'm not familiar with anybody that has gone through the Miller Institute training. I know, in talking with other counselors in other districts around the state, that there are youth programs, whether those are small group programs that are chaired by or led by the school counselor or the principal. I'm sure there's some of that around. But in terms of the comprehensive program that I think we're putting in place here that involves students, it involves staff, it involves counselors, it involves principals, it includes your youth services folks down at the Justice Center. I think, I don't know, I'll go out on a limb and say it's probably a pretty rare occurrence in the state.
Yeah, it's super cool to hear, and just thinking outside the box and giving these kids opportunities to learn new skills and to grow as humans. That it's a really inspiring thing you guys are doing in Wahoo. I can't say enough great things about it, and I for one look forward to following it. I'm gonna talk to Tammy about it as well and Amber to see how it's going, because I think you guys are onto something. I really do.
And also, too, I know we talked about the opportunity for leadership and growth, but it's also an opportunity of what not to do as they get older as well, because they might encounter some difficult situations that ended up going really, really bad. And so you've got some of those younger kids also to see that of not what to do as they age as well.
Tammy, as we continue to hear more and more about this, I can't help but think of, okay, this is our next breakout session for the conference. Because the conference is always on our mind. So, it's something that just keeps kind of coming in my head to keep, see how you guys are doing, and we'll never know. We'll see what happens. Tammy, anything else for these guys?
We're willing to talk about it.
Yeah, we're definitely going to have you on as a follow up again. After the school year, I think that would be great. And just to kind of follow up and see how things are going and share all the good things that you guys are doing in Wahoo at the end of the year. So.
Yeah, we're excited about it, but we're also, trying to kind of take it slow because we don't want to go too fast with it. We want to make sure that we're doing it right and we're taking the steps that we need to keep it going. Not only keep it going, but grow it. More and more students, and again, hopefully it affects our school district in a positive way. So
I do have one more question for you. So the kids that went through the training, obviously what they're getting out of it is huge, and the leadership skills and all that good stuff. Are they being compensated at all, or is there any other structure that's in place to thank them for what they do, or is it something that's happening, or no?
So Mr. Kaminski was very kind, and he provided Rice Krispie treats.
Like it.
Bottles of water. No, they're not being compensated. This is something like Marc said. We asked the staff to identify some students who they felt would be good and effective leaders and willing to do this. We met with those parents and explained this is an opportunity. And we haven't had one kid come up and ask when the paycheck was going to arrive in the mail.
Right. That's awesome.
Now, I think the biggest reward for that is, I think, we talked about making this a pretty special group. I think we talked about maybe calling it the mediation warriors, those types of, and just making it to where, we can get together at periodic times throughout the school year, which we will, but just kind of developing it, not necessarily into a club, but a program to where you're getting together and maybe celebrating those successes that you're having at the end of the year. So I think that's something that we're possibly looking at doing, and hopefully we'll be celebrating a lot of success with it. So
Well, hopefully, Mark, you'll decrease the number of kids coming to see you this year.
Amen.
That would be great. Yep. I think every middle school principal would like that. So
I can about imagine. So, okay, guys, I don't have anything else. I think that was great. I look forward to following, like I said, and kudos to you guys for thinking outside the box and giving these kids opportunities to be successful in so many different ways.
Well, thank you so much for having us.
Yep.
I want to say thank you to, yes, Mark, principal at Wahoo Middle School, and John, school counselor through middle school and high school. Thank you again for joining us today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having us.
You bet. Thank you, guys.